Did you know that the Buddha had been canonised as a Christian saint? In 1571, the Doge of Venice even gave his relics to King Sebastian of Portugal. As a saint, the Buddha was known as Saint Josaphat. How this came to be is quite a story. The saga of an Indian saint who gave up his wealth in pursuit of spiritual truth became so popular in the Middle Ages that it has even been claimed that it prepared the way for St. Francis of Assisi. People welcomed the living saint because they'd already heard the legend. Sometime in the 6th century AD, the story of the life of the Buddha percolated from India via Persia into Constantinople as it was then. And eventually in the 11th century it appeared in faith in Latin as the tale of Barnabas and Josaphat. The Josaphat part being a Chinese whisper of the original word bodhisattva, meaning one on the path to enlightenment. I tell this story because it's fascinating in itself, and because it is an example of the inventive muddle by which the creative force of God, also known as the Holy Spirit, has a way of enriching Christian tradition. And because today is Mothering Sunday, not Mother's Day, as the pedant insists on reminding us, when we celebrate, well, what exactly do we celebrate? In reality, quite a lot of different things. Certainly mothers. In most churches today, if there were a service, that would be an element, with flowers being given to mums by their children as a mark of thanks and love. But there will probably be other things referred to as well. Usually Mother Church gets a mention, as revealed by one of the favoured gospel texts for Mothering Sunday, the nurturing and protective instincts of Jesus, and by implication of God the Father. That short passage from Matthew chapter 23 verse 37. How often have I longed to gather your children as a hen gathers her brood under her wings. There is no getting away from the background influence of the original Mother's Day in the United States, which was originally held in May. It was devised by Anne Jarvis in 1868 as a way to begin the healing of the nation in the midst of the Civil War. She set up field hospitals where victims of both sides were treated. It was not about celebrating the role of mothers, but mothers turning the suffering brought by grief into a movement for reconciliation and peace. Under Julia Ward Howe, it became a way to celebrate the faith-inspired work of women for peace and abolitionism. Her explanation of her inspiration has a very modern ring to it. I want to take the word Christianity back to Christ himself, back to that mighty heart, that endless fountain of charity, out of which I believe has come all true progress and all civilization that deserves the name. I go back to that great spirit which contemplated a sacrifice for the whole of humanity. That sacrifice is not one of exclusion, but of an infinite and endless and joyous inclusion, and I thank God for it. Mothering Sunday in England was an innovation of Constance Smith, daughter of the Vicar of Dagnall, very close to modern Whipsnade Zoo, who just before the First World War read in the newspaper about the campaign by American women. And she decided that it should be formally adopted as an explicit Christian and indeed Anglican event. She wanted to root it in the liturgical tradition of the Church of England, and so she settled on the fourth Sunday of Lent, when Mother Church was celebrated. And that is why it falls when it does every year. She sought to strengthen family bonds by urging those who had young girls in service to let them have a day off so that they could travel back to their homes and take flowers to their mothers. She mined old traditions such as the making of simnel cake and worked with active social groups such as the Boy Scouts, the Girl Guides and the Mothers' Union to try and generate kindly community feeling. And she drew on the reading set for the day from St. Paul's letter to the Colossians to ground Mothering Sunday in a vision of God's love. Paul wrote, Put on then clothes that suit God's chosen and beloved people: compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience. Be tolerant with one another and forgiving. Finally, to bind everything together and to complete the whole, let there be love. Sing from the heart in gratitude to God. So Mothering Sunday is a bit of a muddle of origins and traditions. But what a creative muddle it has been and can be. It might just be the festival that we need now in our current predicament, giving us courage to face what we have to together in gratitude, with patience and in love. Amen.